Okay, I think I got the audio problem resolved here. Let's see if I can try and remember all the good stuff that I posed in the last video. This won't take long. You guys asked some really good questions, some really good inquiries here in regards to your two main questions. Why do you think hip hop is increasingly incorporating religion today, and how do you think this relationship between hip hop and religion will develop in the future? There's a couple of different things I think that stand out to me on this. And first of all, I would say, one, I think hip hop has always incorporated aspects of religion, right? If you trace the history beyond what we now know to be hip hop, right, which really emerged around the 60s, 70s, right? But if you trace those aspects of true hip hop culture in regards to standing up for the oppressed, speaking up for the marginalized, self-awareness, a religious aspect, that 10th element of hip hop, spirituality and spiritual dimensions, that's been around for a long time. I mean, you can really, in my class, when I teach on the history of hip hop, we really go back to 14th and 13th century Africa and really looking at some of these aspects. When you think about dance, when you think about style, when you think about just hermeneutics and epistemology, the elements of hip hop were present, and they didn't look like, obviously, what they look like now today, but they've been around. And so to say that hip hop is starting this just now, that's not a full picture. That's not an accurate picture. It's hip hop has been around now. The founding godfathers and godmothers, I think, really started this as a voice for us and by us, right? Not to coin the term FUBU, but that is essentially what it was like. I mean, and I think now the renowned terminology, really this taxonomy that Chuck D said, that hip hop is our CNN. That's one aspect, and so of course when you think about politics and gender and race, those are aspects of hip hop. But the spiritual dimension is that as well. So I think hip hop provides a space and place, particularly for this postmodern society, post-soul society, to really work out some of the areas of ambiguity, doubt, mystery, who God or gods may be, where do we come from, and so hip hop really provides that space. Now, I do think somebody like KRS-One is really trying to establish hip hop, as a religious domain. So I find that interesting, right? As a scholar of religious studies, a scholar of hip hop and religion, simply because of the fact is who gets to define what a religion is, who gets to define what a denomination is, and so I think KRS-One, I know KRS-One has explored those questions and those thoughts. So he is himself saying, well, let's establish hip hop as this. I mean, when you think about denominations, Islam, or when you think about not even denomination, Islam is not a denomination. But you think about religions like Islam and in Christianity and Judaism, those were established by groups of folks, right? People who came together and said, this is that. Now, of course, you've got the theologies that say God gave us these messages. But in essence, you have people who have said, we're going to believe this group of theologies, this group of epistemologies, this group of hermeneutics, and we're going to apply those to life. That's kind of the way religions start, as groups of people, these social constructs, right? That's the sociologist in me talking, right? These social constructs that people create within it, when denominations. I mean, think about just even the transgression, or just even the construct over the last 400 years of how we define sin. That's a socially constructed element. Yes, the Bible or the Torah or these sacred scriptures define what sin may be, but ultimately we as humanity work those things out in the day-to-day. And so what was a sin in the 1600s isn't necessarily a sin today. And so you think about something as simplistic as the way women wear their hair. In Victorian times, women who wore their hair down were considered loose or were considered whores, right? But nowadays, all kinds of women wear their hair down, so that's not necessarily looked at as a sin, as a bad thing anymore. And so we construct those things, and particularly when you start thinking about the problem of evil, hip hop provides space and place for these things. And so to look over hip hop and to think as hip hop as just a basic music genre is really limiting it. So you're asking the right questions. I think when you think about hip hop, it is a region. When you think about regionally, when you think about places like Libya, when you think about Egypt, you think about places that have had these uprisings. Hip hop has been at the heart of that, and that says something. We have to pay attention to that. And of course, there's a spiritual element. And think about what spoken word brings and the cathartic elements of what that brings out in people. That's powerful. That's powerful stuff, and that can't be ignored. There's a spiritual dimension to that. So going back to your questions and your query. How do you think hip-hop is increasingly incorporating religion today? Well, I think it's been incorporating it. I don't think it's necessarily just today. Now, I think artists like Kanye and Eminem, and recent artists like Kendrick Lamar, I think those artists are obviously dealing with some elements of the sacred and profane and the secular, and trying to really work out what does that look like. So to put them in binary terms again limits it. But that's again what a lot of sometimes, particularly in the Christian faith, we put them into binary terms, right? He's a sinner. Look at Kanye. He's not living up to this standard. But that standard so often is again socially constructed. Oh, well, it's a biblical worldview. What the hell is a biblical worldview? I mean, I think we have to ask those questions, right? Because ultimately, who gets to define these things? Who gets to define what religion is? Who gets to define what sin is? Who gets to define what grace is? Who gets to define what good and bad is? I mean, I think we can take away from some of the basics, right? Don't kill, adultery, but I don't need a Bible. I don't need a religion to tell me that I shouldn't be sleeping out on my wife. I don't need a religion to somebody just to go tell me that I shouldn't be killing 50 people a day. I think as humans, we were able to figure that stuff out. Right, so I think there's some basics that we'd be able to figure out. But hip hop really provides a space again for folks to really work through those things. And so I think what Kanye is trying to do, he's a complex person, right? So I think when he says, yes, I'm a god, we have to begin to look into that and deconstruct it because there's so much more going on in that than just simply saying, no, that's wrong, that's evil, that's bad. Again, these binary things, bad or good. Is he a complete saint? I don't know. But is he complete this sinner, this evil person? I don't know. I'm not willing to believe either total worldview, but I am willing to look at some of the areas and where those things overlap and intersect. So I think hip-hop is trying to intersect with that. I mean, just look at Kendrick Lamar's Section 80 album. I mean, I think that the cover of that explains everything. You got a Bible, you got a gun, you got bullets, you got weed. So you got all these elements of the sacred, the secular, and the profane all mixed in one. Then your next question is, how do you think this relationship between hip-hop and religion will develop in the future? I'm hoping that it will become more public. I think, 30, 40 years ago, it was in the kind of the public domain, in the social domain of the hoods and the boroughs of the East and South Bronx and West Coast and East Oakland and Compton and Watts. And as hip hop became more popular and more rooted in the popular domain, obviously money came into it, and so people gotta sell records, and so there is a social capital element to hip hop, and that I think we all have to look at. So wrapping this up and thinking about it, I think it's important to begin to look at what does hip-hop really ask of us? And how does hip-hop begin to create its own spiritual areas that are maybe even foreign, and even to some of the Abrahamic faiths, right? And so I think those are important areas to be looking at. And so I think as we move forward, I think artists like Kendrick Lamar, Jasiri X, are trying to create a space and place, to work out the politics, work out gender, work out sexuality, because there's a whole area in there that we haven't even begun to touch. So I think those are important facets. So I think you're asking the right questions. It's just a matter of I think young scholars like yourselves will be able to really work out some of those intricate details. We're on kind of the beginnings, if you will, the genesis of a field, hip hop and religion, the beginning of a field. And so with that, you have broad concepts, and as we begin to kind of narrow those things down, I think in 10 years we're going to be looking at what does Eve and Nicki Minaj have to bring to this, because we haven't even begun to look at bodies, embodiment, what does that sexual representation mean, and then what does the gaze mean, what is that, what particularly from hegemonic structures, what does that white male gaze look like, particularly towards black women, and what is the religious and spiritual significance of that? I mean, I think those are questions that we have to ponder. So those are my thoughts. 9 minutes we're in, so hope this is helpful. Good luck on your assignment. I know Dr. Miller will have y'all hemmed up, so hopefully this will work, and I will see you guys later. Peace.